And here at Global Lab Testing, I lead a program that is called Scaled Insights. I know this is not a very commonly used name, so I want to tell you a bit more about what Scaled Insights are. So the goal of the program is to provide user insights from local markets across the globe, and such knowledge can help our clients look at the audience more broadly and hear voices of people they might not have a chance to interact with directly. So let's say that the client is based in the US, and we are able to provide insights from various different countries, for example, like Malaysia. And I suppose it is not very easy to conduct research in Malaysia. So here's where we come in and help connect those clients with insights from markets all around the world. Now, our other speakers here today are going to talk about how they have made their products more inclusive. And meanwhile, I would like to pave the way for them by talking about inclusivity in a more general sense. So speaking of inclusivity, one very, very important thing that I want to share with you today is that inclusivity is not only the right thing to do, as we are told, but it is also a profitable thing to do. Because naturally, as you gain more happy users in more markets, your business naturally grows. When you consider this, you can frame your plea to your stakeholders in a different way than before. Inclusivity might no longer seem to be a cost, and hopefully it will start to be seen as something that it truly is, which is an investment that will eventually pay off. And now, speaking of investment, so it is often considered that inclusivity is something that you add on top of an existing product, which makes it super, super expensive to implement. However, when you think of it as something that you invest in from the very start, when you proactively take it under consideration at every step of the way, it becomes much easier. And it's also the same case with accessibility and localization. If your teams embed them in their daily work, then at some point it will become something natural. It will become an integral part of the process. It will be something like, when I think about it, for example, clean code principles or Jira tracking, those are things that are not exactly a must, but this is something that we learned along the way, and now it's super natural for us to go by those principles and do those things. Now, there is one more thing that I want to touch upon. So we tend to think about inclusivity along the lines of different countries, different cultural backgrounds, different accessibility needs, essentially various kinds of identities. However, this is just a tip of an iceberg, okay? And I would like to mention here a few user segments that often get overlooked in product development. So first, people with bad internet access. So in the West, we are used to fiber internet connection. We are used to unlimited 5G data plans. However, there are still many places across the globe. I think even in Europe, where I live, there can be many places found where this is just not the case. And there are places where you can get very, very little data for a very high price. So if we make our apps, our websites heavy, they will not reach users who are in those places. And for example, in our other event, Neil Doughty from the BBC talked about how they invested in global user experience. And one example that he mentioned was that Nigerians were likely to use technologies on their phone that allowed them to save data. And now the effect of this for the BBC was that it interfered with media quality. And this is exactly the kind of issues that I want to bring your attention to. And now the second thing, the second example are people with low-end hardware. And here I would like to share an anecdote from one of the companies that I worked with in the past. So at some point, they decided to stop supporting their app for Android version 5 and older For context, if somebody doesn't know, the latest version of Android is now 14. So 5 is indeed kind of old. But the point is that it was assumed that since it's such an old version, there are sure not many people who are still using it, like little to none. And yet they did that. They stopped supporting those devices, and many users with older phones spoke up that they felt excluded and they felt left behind by the company that they trusted. So we need to keep in mind that the majority of people don't have the latest iPhone. They might not even have a mid-range phone, and they are likely not to be replacing their device every 2 or 3 years. And here, fun fact, even Chris Evans, aka Captain America, used iPhone 6S for many years until Apple finally stopped supporting it. And the guy is a millionaire. So, it can happen to everyone. And this list of segments, of user segments that we need to think about can go on. So we have people who can pay by card, people with different purchasing power, different levels of tech savviness. And there is one thing that they all have in common, and this is that they are your potential users. There are people who might want to use your product. And now I want to leave you with this big, very important question that you need to ask yourselves. Will you let them use your product?